Hello and welcome. I am Brigantia Blackbird of Blackbird's Brew. Happy Thursday and welcome to the Pagan Housewife. We are going to be baking pumpkin pie today because whether you are going to be the person providing pumpkin pie at Thanksgiving or you just like it as a seasonal bake, this is the perfect time of year to do this. And it's been a while since we baked something together. Now, I have shown you this particular pie crust recipe in previous videos, so I won't belabor the point too much. But the really nice thing about baking pumpkin pie is that you only need one crust, and that just simplifies everything. So I'm just going to put the dry ingredients there, give it a little stir with a handy dandy whisk. Then I'm going to put in this nice little bit of shortening. Now with this recipe you can use shortening or butter with equal good effect. For the pumpkin pie, because I want the pumpkin and all the spices in it to really take center stage, I'm not wanting the crust to really taste of much of anything. I want it to really take a back seat. So now I'm just going to take the pastry blender and just work this in, periodically scraping it with a butter knife. I like to keep one of those handy. Makes the job go faster. There we go. And you just keep working at it till it's crumbly. And as always, I apologize a little bit for the awkwardness of these videos. I haven't quite worked out the logistics yet. So for those of you who know better, please tell me of the better way to do this. And for those of you putting up with me, thank you for putting up with me. Always appreciated for those of us who are not particularly technologically inclined. Okay, now I've just about got it to the texture I want. And this is another reason why I'm taking you through the whole process, because baking pumpkin pie, this is not an all-day event that's just going to take over your life and destroy your kitchen. I started this at 4 o'clock on a Sunday afternoon, and it should be out of the oven, before dinner time, if we're being honest. So, all right, now once you've got the crumb to about that stage, I hope you can see that decently well in the video, that's when you add the milk. And of course, I put a little bit of apple cider vinegar in the milk to make it a little bit creamier like buttermilk and give it a little bit more of a tartness, because that doesn't make the crust taste like too much, but it gives it just enough to where it isn't completely boring. And we just stir it in like this until we've got ourselves a workable dough. Almost there. All right, take that off. That's a nice thing about home cooking. You can just wipe things off with your clean fingers and it's fine and no one yells at you. And a real bakery, oof, that would be bad. But we're at home, so it's fine. Okay, close enough. Now I'm going to get things set up so we can roll this out. Back in just a sec. And now we are going to roll it out. As you can see, I've got the dough centered and a floured surface. I have the pie plate greased and ready to go. And I have our handy dandy rolling pin already covered with flour, and I have more flour in reserve just in case we need it. So let's see how this does. Now I will admit, this is take 2 of the rolling out of the dough. The first time it did not give me very much cooperation. Sometimes they don't. They want to go all cracky and fall aparty on you, and like this one is right now. So you just have to work with it. You try not to overwork your dough, but at the end of the day, we are putting this in pretty thin, and so even if it is slightly overworked, you're not really going to notice because all of your attention will be on the lovely pumpkin pie filling. So sometimes you just got to move forward and trust that it will work out, which is what we're doing here today. There we go, doing a little bit of repair work there as we go. Just trying to make something that's going to be wide enough to go over the whole of the pie plate. There we go. Great. Well, we're getting pretty close. Well, we'll run into trouble will really be along the edges, so we might be having to do a little bit of the Frankenstein repair work there, but that is all part of baking. And if people don't see it, then the mistake is not actually there. At least that's what I'm going with. Okay. Move these out of the way. I think we'll roll this up to about halfway-ish, and then we'll just see what we're working with. Okay. Move it forward a little bit, if it cooperates with me, which again, when baking, cooperation is not always in the cards. Okay, but this is not too shabby. We've got some stuff to work with here. Okay. I've always wondered at those people who are able to get the pie crust perfectly centered and just have it come up just right onto the pie plate. No cracks, no lesions, none of that. It's a beautiful thing to behold when it actually works out that way. And I've had that happen in my own kitchen, but not consistently. So I suppose that's what keeps us all learning, trying to figure out how to get better and what is most effective when and all that good stuff. Okay. Getting pressed in. Then we take some of our scraps, and because we're going to want to have something of an edge. There. Okay. Almost done. This will just be a little more rustic than what was intended. And whenever that happens, just make sure that anyone who sees it knows that you absolutely did that on purpose and that it was a deliberate choice. Okay. So we have the pie crust in the pie plate. Very good. Now we just want to work at the edges a little bit. Let's see, actually I want to cut off a little bit of this. There we go. Like this. That's a little bit more even. And as soon as I said that, something became uneven. We have chaos this afternoon. Alrighty. So we're not going to do a big crimp here, but I just want to do enough to define it. So just go around, just little pinches. Like I said, this will be a little more rustic than intended just because that is how the dough is behaving. And sometimes you have to give way to realities in the kitchen. All right, almost around like this. Okay, now the next step will be putting together the lovely pumpkin batter. And now for pretty much the easiest part of this. This is a point at which you can just almost start treating it like a dump recipe. First, I'm going to take the bowl and I'm going to empty out all the pumpkin into it, like so. Alrighty, got that. Then I will empty out the sweetened condensed milk. I use sweetened condensed milk instead of evaporated because I think this is creamier. It has a smoother finish for the pie. And sometimes I've noticed when you put evaporated milk into pumpkin pie, it almost tastes watery. And while this is very much just a matter of taste, watery is not really the texture I'm looking for when I am eating the pumpkin pie. So, but perhaps that is just me. Oop. And then we'll drop things. Then we'll put in 2 eggs. A cup of milk. 3/4 cup of sugar. And then in this cup, we have a mixture of salt, flour, and various spices, mostly cinnamon, nutmeg, allspice, things like that. Now, I'm not going to dump this immediately in because I usually like to give this stuff a pretty good whisk. That way I don't run as much risk for lumps later on down the road. There we go. That's pretty good. Dump. Oh. Now, when it comes to the spices, I just play it by ear mostly. I have a tendency to either overspice or underspice pumpkin pie. Year before last, I completely overspiced that, and I even admitted it later. Impossible to eat without the benefit of whipped cream. And so the next year, I followed the directions of how much spice to use. And it was not near enough. So this year I just guesstimated, and we'll see how it turns out. All right, and now it's ready to be poured into the pie crust. And if you will notice, I did line the baking sheet with a little bit of foil, just in case. I'm not really anticipating any spillage, but, you know, I would rather have it there and not have a big mess to clean up later just in case. So just pour this in. There we go. And now I'm just going to cover the outside edges with foil, stick it in the oven. I will bake it at 400 degrees Fahrenheit for about 10 minutes, and then I will drop it down to 350 for 50 minutes, and then it'll come out and I will show you the results. And ta-da! It is out of the oven, and I feel pretty happy. Judging by the color, I think it'll be nice and spicy, but I don't think it'll be too spicy, which is what you want. Also, just as a brief reminder, if you are wanting to use kitchen magic, there is nothing like a pumpkin pie to attract prosperity and abundance and good health. Just think about the spices and those magical correspondences, the cinnamon, the nutmeg, the ginger, the allspice, cloves, everything of that nature. All of that attracts good fortune, good health, prosperity in general. And the pumpkin itself, which relates both to the moon and to the water elements and the earth elements, that is everything having to do with abundance, everything having to do with good things. So if you're wanting to do a little bit of discreet kitchen magic, this is another good option for you. But yes, there we have it. Thank you so much for joining me. I hope you enjoyed this cozy little video, and I will see you in the next one. Bye-bye.